Hi, I'm Lance Lambert. Thanks for tuning into the Vintage Vehicle Show. We are in Parkland, Washington at the LeMay Car Show and Auction. This is a traditional event. This is the 32nd year. If you're not familiar with the LeMay collection, you've been living under a rock. It is an absolutely phenomenal museum and car collection here in Parkland and kind of spread around the greater Puget Sound area. This show happens every year, and the LeMay Museum is something that is so exciting that's happening here in the Northwest, and we have a gentleman here that's going to tell us a little bit more about it. Come on up here, David.
Hi, Lance.
Hey, David Madera. He is the CEO of the LeMay Museum. Tell us what's going on here.
Well, as you said, it's the 32nd annual car show. It started with the LeMay family just doing it on their own, and Nancy would serve donuts and coffee to 5,000 people.
And she still does.
Still does. Now it's become much more institutionalized, but it's all part of our effort to promote the saving of Harold's collection and building of the world's foremost car museum in Tacoma.
The big exciting thing about the LeMay Museum is the facility that you are building in Tacoma. It is so exciting. America's Car Museum. It is going to be, without question, the best automotive museum in the world.
Absolutely. That's the goal. It'll be a 180,000 square foot facility. Part of what really makes it distinct is the show field. Most museums don't have a field like this where people can come and have fun and bring their cars. We can get out there, we can do what we're all about, celebrate our love with a car.
Marc Bradley, when I was looking for cars to include in the show today, and I came up to you, and somebody, while I was talking to you, walked by, looked at your car, and went, "Oh, wow." I knew right then I'd made a good choice.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's what I said when I found it. It's a good journey, I'll tell you.
Beautiful car. How long have you had, and what's the journey been like?
The journey's been fun. I learned a lot. Me and my boys spent a lot of time together, putting the car together and working on it. After an 8-year restoration, this is what I've got, and I've had it 9-10 years. And what you see is a labor of love.
So 9 or 10 years ago, was it sitting in the garage with holes rusted through the floorboard and chrome missing, or what did you start with?
I started with a car that I found in a farmer's field in Iowa, and basically the bottom half of the car was rotten. Somebody pushed it around with a forklift. Matter of fact, I got it into town and had the tow company bring it through the yard, and all the guys at work were giving me such crap that kind of depressed me for a little while, but encouraged me to do a better job. And drove it back through there, and everybody just kind of had to eat shoe.
So a farmer's field in Iowa. What a visual.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. So
You told me off camera that you painted this car yourself, and you're not a painter by trade. The paint job on this thing is absolutely stunning. How'd you get so good right out of the gate?
trial and error, read a few books, watch a few people paint, talk to some of the old school guys, and they gave me some tips, and it worked out. It worked out really good.
You've kept this very stock. You have Kelsey Hayes. Did they come on the wire wheels? Were they on it that year?
Yes, Kelsey Hayes came on it with the wide whites. Those were a factory option. These are actually redone ones. They're not the originals. They're a little too much money to redo them. So
I've seen 55 and 56 Dodges where, for some reason, they seem to be magnets for side pipes in the custom world, and no tempting to put flamethrowers in the back of this or side pipes or do anything like that with it.
no, I think it's much more exciting keeping it bone stock. I mean, people really love it. I love it. You don't see them, especially done like they were when they rolled off the showroom floor.
And the power plant on it?
Original 270 Hemi. Everything to the car is original, with the exception of the paint and the interior. But all the motors and rear end and all that stuff is original to the car.
Oh, Hemi, the magic word.
Yeah, the little baby Hemi.
Well, this looks like, I'll let you go because it looks like you probably need to go be in the Daffodil Parade or the Rose Parade or some kind of parade with a couple of princesses waving from the back seat.
Yeah, we'll try that sometime.
Okay. All right, thank you. Every car show you go to, there's always one car that just stops traffic more than any other car. Well, Ed Rittenhouse, your 31 Cadillac is doing just that. What a beautiful car.
Well, thank you very much.
Tell us about this. How did it come into your ownership, and was it a basket case when you got it, or what's the story on this car?
Well, it was in Seattle in a warehouse. It had actually been repossessed by a bank, and a friend of mine who's a mechanic had done some work and realized that the car was in good shape, repairable, restorable, and so I acquired it from the bank, and then we started the restoration, and that was about 20 years ago.
And the restoration, what you started with, was a rusting hulk, or did you have a lot to begin with?
No, the car was actually very solid and only missing a few items. The car had been painted probably in the 60s or 70s and had velour upholstery, all of which was incorrect. So we found a few parts we needed and worked and did the final complete restoration.
I'm familiar with 31 Cadillacs, but not with the pecking order within the manufacturer's models. What model is this, and where does it fall in relationship to other Cadillacs?
Well, this is a 5-passenger sedan, and the body maker is Fleetwood. It's a V12, which means that the engine has 12 cylinders. The Cadillac that year also made a V8, the V12, and a V16. There were two bodybuilders, Fisher and Fleetwood, that were owned by Cadillac, and they offered something like 30 body styles in each of these body makers that would be available for the public.
What kind of output does a V12 from 31 put out?
Well, it's a 370 cubic inch engine, but it puts out about 130 horsepower.
Plenty for this to cruise along the highway just fine?
Yeah, it carries the car along fine. It's a pretty powerful engine.
I was watching you earlier today, and you did something very gracious to one of the participants here at the show. There was a mom and her daughter, and the daughter was pretty young. Well, she was about 8 or 10 years old, and mom kept pulling her away from the car, and you just said, hey, you want to climb in? You want to sit on it? What do you think about that? So many of these cars, the owners just go nuts if anybody gets within 5 feet of them, and there you are putting a kid, and the kid really was holding a sucker. I swear she was holding a sucker. You were a brave man.
Well, thanks. I mean, when we first restored the car, we took it to shows. It was pristine condition. We're now driving it. We want people to enjoy it. The experience of sitting in the back seat of a car like this is like being in your living room. So a child would never experience this in a modern car. So we're glad to have her do it.
Well, I'm going to go out and see if I can find a lollipop and get out my hands all sticky and stuff and maybe climb in the back seat.
You're not as cute as she is.
On that, I'm going to say thank you, Ed. Beautiful car. Thank you for being on the Vintage Vehicle Show.
Thank you very much.
Steve Krecker, somebody grabbed me and said, you have to see this car. You got to meet this guy and see this car. They brought me over here, and it was a good trip. This is absolutely beautiful 1954 Mercury. Tell us about it.
Thank you. Yeah, I brought it in from Salem, Massachusetts. I looked for a '54 Mercury to do for 4 years, and I only found 2 for sale during that time, and they wound up both to be the same car. I missed it the first time, and got it the second time, but I was happier actually because the second time it came with a bunch of NOS stuff that was really hard to find. The guy who bought it simply to package up all of the stuff he had left over from when he'd done several years prior, and package it up and sell it out to somebody who would do the car, rather than drag it around from swap meet to swap meet for years to unload all that stuff. So it worked out being for the best because I wound up having a lot of hard-to-find stuff that the car needed to do, and it worked out really well. It took me 2 years and 8 months to do it. I did a complete body-off restoration on it, took it down to nothing, and my goal was to put it back exactly the way it was when it left the assembly line in '54.
You were out in your garage with the drop light and the sandpaper, and you were doing the work yourself?
I did everything but the rebuild the rear quarters and the paint. That I had done by a restoration shop in my town. I'm from Port Orchard, Washington, and that was done by Quality Restorations and Street Rods, a guy by the name of Lundy Atkins. Does fantastic work.
A '54 Merc is kind of rare. Not real rare, but kind of rare. If you go to a car show and you see 2, it's kind of unusual. You might see 1. A convertible, of course, makes it even rarer. How is it that if you went out and got, there's all kinds of cars you could have got that parts are no problem, everything's no problem. You took on something that's just a little bit more of a challenge.
Well, they only made 7,200 convertibles in '54, and myself and some other aficionados of the year this deduced that there's probably less than 200 left on the planet, and I have 2 of them actually doing another one right now. It's all apart. But the reason that I picked '54 was I'd always loved the look of a '54 Merc convertible from when I was a kid. I've had a love affair with cars ever since I was a kid, and the '54 Merc convertible always stood out to me.
What's the running gear on this?
It's got a 256 Y block. The 256 was only used in the '54 Mercs. It's the first year of the overhead valve. It has a Mercumatic transmission in it and a like rear end to be able to match up to it for the speeds that they wanted.
Performance is just fine?
Oh yeah, it works great. It's 161 horsepower is all it's got. So it's a little sluggish getting off the line, of course, but on the freeway it rolls really nice and does 65, 70 miles an hour without even blinking.
I have always been fascinated by trailers, and I've especially been fascinated by teardrop trailers. We're here at the LeMay Show, and the forest is full of teardrop trailers. Pat and Jan Estes, you want to explain that to us?
Well, the whole thing behind the teardrops is that they've been built from probably around 1930s they're still built as new trailers now, but all of them have a little different key on how they're put together. Ours was built off of Popular Mechanics and Mechanics Illustrated, 1939 edition and 1949. A lot of the other trailers out here are 1947. There are some that are 1999. There's a 2008 over here, one of the other ones. All the trailers are different. They're all designed differently. And the one thing that they have in common is you sleep inside. You cook and prepare your food, you clean up your dishes and everything else on the back of the clamshell, which is the part that opens in the back. Everybody loves to talk about them. They like to come out here and they want to build their own, and they get new ideas, and it's just a lot of fun. It's just a family thing, whether you pull it with a street rod, whether you pull it with a 1954 Ford or whatever. And these trailers only weigh around 800 to 1,500 pounds. They're easy to tow. If for some reason you got in a bind with it, you could just unlatch it, push it by yourself, and get it out of the way. And it's also very easy for storing it inside the garage during our wonderful Washington winters.
I would think that a lot of the viewers like me grew up, as you mentioned, Popular Mechanics and Mechanics Illustrated, looking at the plans for these and dreaming about owning one. I would think with that background in people that every time they see one of these things, they just wax nostalgic.
They definitely do, and it's really a lot of fun because people do call and it's like they're going, well, what year is yours? We keep looking at all these different plans and thinking, wow, this is a lot of fun, but not everybody builds their own. We bought ours on eBay. We saw them when we came back from our honeymoon a few years ago, and we're here at the LeMay Show, and we saw them and we said, boy, those are cool. And then I remembered that my aunt and uncle had one that my uncle had built, and we just said, you know, that's really going to be the way for us to go. And so we thought, well, how are we going to get involved? And like I said, we found one on eBay and we purchased it, and we're thrilled with it. We love it. We love the Teardroppers of Oregon, Washington. It's a wonderful group to be a part of, and we have events throughout the Northwest. We join with Tin Can Tourists for some of their events, and we just love going out camping. It's simple. All I have to do is throw stuff into my trailer and we're on the road. I don't have to unpack, repack. It's all there. And usually we set things up in the spring and we're camping until mid-end of October.
People with teardrop trailers look really approachable. I wouldn't be shy around. I'm obviously not shy around teardrop trailer people. Do you have a lot of total strangers walking up, and what kind of questions do you get asked?
Give them the best one.
Oh, the best one. Everybody always asks, do you actually sleep in that thing? And of course we do, and it's a lot of fun. We get nice and cozy in there. Ours is 4 foot wide. Some people have wider trailers, but that's the number one question. And everybody's generally really nice because they kind of know that this is something special and it's something that they'd like to have. So I think that there's some respect garnered from that too.
Your tow car, what is that? What year Chrysler is that?
It's a 1966 Chrysler Newport that we bought here at the LeMay auction in 2006.
You haven't been married that many years, so do you think you'll still be 10 years from now all right with snuggling up in that thing?
Absolutely. There's nothing better.
What else could he say? Thank you very much for being on the Vintage Vehicle Show. This is a beautiful trailer. What a great time we've had here at the 32nd Annual LeMay Open House Car Show and Auction. Great group of people, a lot of great cars. Hope you enjoyed it. Tune in next time. Until then, bye-bye.